Got us a little Coleman right here. Just a little pupper. We're gonna go up there and take a look, show you what we got. We have already put the slide out roof on, and I'll open that up and show you all what we did and why and all that stuff. But we were getting so busy I didn't have time to get the camera on there. So you see we got issues right here. No caulking. See how that opens up when you just lean down on it? No caulking. Then this is a splendid put more on type of doctrine. We'll go with doctrine. See all those cracks? It's already fractured. So the RV industry, they outright, in your face, exploit your ignorance to roof systems. And then they give you some narrative that, hey, all you got to do is just, you know, soak some more of that stuff on there. It doesn't work. That's why we stay so busy. That's not the proper way to do it. But how many times are you going to keep going over this? You don't have to. If the product was good enough, then the UV light wouldn't be breaking it down. And the only time UV light breaks it down is obviously if there's no properties built into the product to thwart or reflect back, if you will, to UV light to make sure it doesn't break it all down, right? So, you know, it's just cheap junk. We don't use anything RV here. And this is just your cheap rubber roof. But you see, like I said, they've slobbered everything everywhere, and you see all the fractures. So that's what that means. It's already separating. So then the UV light will get in there, moisture will get in there, and it'll start opening it up and makes galleys. And then, you know, you'll have leaks. And I got up there and put that stuff on 100 times. So, like I said, we already did the slide out, and I'll show you all that. And the owner on this one, he was really concerned about it because he lives in this, and they were concerned about that. So I just said, heck, well, let's just put a new roof on it, because if he didn't need one now, he was going to need one anyways. So it's already in the shop, and we use a piece of aluminum on it, and aluminum will reflect. If I have an opportunity to use aluminum, I prefer to use it, but sometimes you just can't get them in really long lengths, not without them beating up your wallet. But if I can, I do, because aluminum in itself will reflect more UV light than even, you know, naturally it does. So if you had white, the pigment on white will when it's clean, will reflect more light, UV light, than aluminum. However, when the white gets dirty, then even though the aluminum would be dirty, the aluminum would supersede the white. So that's why you see a lot of these coatings are always white. It's because it reflects more. But like I said, if anything's aluminum, it's going to do it automatically, whether it's dirty or not. It's better if it's clean, but... So you can see, wow, look at all this. That's a whole couple of, 12 pounds of daggum caulking on there. So we'll pull all this apart. We've got a crank up antenna. And then over here in that crank up, what we're doing now is trying to protect the coach. There's a rubber bushing right there. See that rubber boot? You need to make sure you've got caulking on top of it, and pull the boot up and caulk underneath it, because water will trickle down there and it'll get in your coach. So other than that, we're going to rip her apart. And I guess we get two skylights on here. That's not really a vent. And if some salesman is telling you that's a vent, there is no way you can vent these roofs at all. That's an access, but it's not a vent. So if you wanted to pull a wire, for instance, from here to wherever, you can just pop that loose and then reach in there, and you could find some wires or move some wires around. But it's not going to vent. The only way that's going to vent is if it had a drawer at the bottom, much like your house. So on your house, you've got your gutter, and you got the soffit underneath there, and there's ventilation, and that goes up to the vent. But if it doesn't have a draw, it can't pull anything. Doesn't matter how many you put on there. It's not gonna work. So, and if you don't believe me, you can go on YouTube and look up Owens Corning ventilation systems, and Owens Corning has one on there. There's quite a few of them. How to vent a roof. It's not gonna work. So don't let a salesman fool you into going, yeah, that's gonna work, because he's just trying to sell a coach. And he don't care. And it don't matter. They can lie all they want to sell a coach. So don't be gullible enough to fall for it. So other than that, we're just putting some protection on here now. We always protect the coach before we take it apart. And we are going to start ripping her apart and getting a new one on there. So one of the other things I like to show on here is see how low this AC is. Right up underneath there. Barely get your fingers in there. So what happens is there's a lot of debris tree branches, you know, that may not such a branch, but, you know, pollen, twigs, things like that. There's a foam gasket in there. And what happens is it'll cause it to dry out. And all that dirt and everything will cause it to dry out. So by the time we put our curbs on there, that elevates it and gets rid of that problem. So, but that's something that really should be done. The only thing protecting this thing from leaking, again, is just that foam gasket. So I know, who's that company out there? They do spray on roofs there, RV Armor or somebody like that. And we don't spray roofs. If they worked, I would just go get them and I would get the machine and I would spray. But the reason why I don't is because I don't know what's underneath this. I don't know where all the problems are, what problems there are. I want to address all that before I put a coach back together. So the other thing, if you look at those videos on air conditioning on the RV Armor, you look at their video on air conditioning, within the 1 minute mark, the guy says if this was a commercial roof, it would have a curb with flashing and counter flashing, and then that's exactly what we do. So he knows that. Then he continues to go on and say that if these leak, to go in there, and they will. He said they possibly could. So even though they're saying it won't leak, they're saying now he's saying it will leak. He wants you to go in, and there's 4 bolts inside when you go into the seal, and you can just torque them down. But you can't just tighten them down randomly. They have to be torqued down. So also the air conditioner gaskets, you really should be replacing those every couple of years. Just an FYI for that. So, but again, I've done commercial work for decades, and I've had machines, I've had recovery machines, I've had metal machines, we've done all sorts of roof systems, structurality, a whole bunch of stuff like that. My point is, if the spray-on system worked, I'd just go buy the machine and do it. That's why I don't do it, because it doesn't work. We've got a couple of coaches on there that we have done that someone did have sprayed, and it just does not perform well. Especially when you're putting it on rubber. Rubber is fickle. It is super fickle. You get all this oxidation. When you get all this oxidation, you got to get that oxidation off of there, because it'll keep oxidizing. And no sooner you clean this area and go down there to clean that area, you come back here and it's already oxidized again. It's just a fickle animal. When we did commercial work, I didn't even install 1 roll of it. Rubber is the cheapest product on the planet, literally the cheapest product on the planet. TPO, which is the thermoplastic, which is what we use, a commercial grade, not the RV grade, the commercial grade, that is pound for pound, dollar for dollar is your best bet on these roof systems. And some people will say PVC is really good. Well, it is, but PVC is a lot more expensive. And really, PVC is just designed for like buildings that have some sort of fallout, like something that would get on there that would otherwise have contaminated another type of roof. You know, sometimes like a lot of these chemical plants, like Dow, for instance, they would have a PVC roof. Chemical plants are like that. Anything that would leach on there, that would compromise maybe a TPO roof, because the chemistry is just a little different in the PVC. So, and it's also more expensive. So, anyhow, we're going to get to work and tear this apart, and we'll keep you updated. We get most everything off. This is how they protect the sharpness from the roof to the siding. They just put duct tape on it. And that's just a mesh. It's just drywall mesh. That's all it is. So, and that's supposed to prevent the chafing, so you don't get all that, basically all the blistering right here from the thing going back and forth from the camper coach, whatever you want to call it, rocking back and forth. So you want to check all that where the gutter is. You want to check if you got little slits in there, that's going to be a big problem, because it'll run right down. It'll be real small. Wipe them down, check real good. Use a flashlight if you have to, even during the daytime. I'm telling you, a flashlight really helps. Okie dokie, you can see it's all nice and clean and opened up. And then what we do is we make sure all the wires are all protected. I'm going to put some bushings in this one, and I'll go get them and show you what they are. They should be over there on the top of that shelf over there. So then when we're taking this up, look at here, they used nails. Can you imagine that? Nails through aluminum? We're like, that's not really a good idea. But Coleman went a step further, and there's wood all the way up inside these. Unusual. I have never seen that. So all the coaches I've done, it's the first time I've seen them with the wood. Every one of them got stock in them. So this is what happens when you try to weld this stuff, because it's real cheap, and you just blow a hole in it. This is just low alloy. Even over here, I got another burn mark. and they couldn't weld that one. It'll just come apart. But they all seem to still be pretty sturdy. So we're going to glue it down, then we're going to screw it down. We're not going to probably nail it down. We're going to screw it down. And then we checked all the trunk lines, made sure they were okay. And then any wires that were crossing the trunk lines, like over here, you can see like we're just trying to protect the corner because these are just foam, and when the wires just start rubbing on them, then they actually put a hole in the ductwork. So look at that. And then these are the bushings right here. You only need them if they're going through metal. You don't need to put it in the wood. So they just go right through there. And these, when I say these manufacturers won't spend one more red cent, there it is. And we're just going to put that in there because that's kind of sharp. And we don't want it to compromise the wire, right? So we're going to put that in there. It's that simple. Boom. Look at those. We'll probably put a little bit of caulking on there just to hold it in place, or even a piece of tape or something to keep it in place. But that's what we're doing. We'll check all that. And everything else looks pretty good. We're gonna put the insulation back, get it decked, and get a roof on this thing, get going with it. All right, so now we got the decking down, we glued it, and we were able to stable it because there's the wood that was inside there, so it came out really well. But we glued her all down. That's what we do. You can see some of it right in there, but probably even a little bit more over there somewhere. But we boogered her up pretty good. So now we got to get our protective strips right here. We'll put them on the joints. Another one like right here on the joint. And then we got some shoulders to make. Once we make the shoulders and everything, then we can get going with the roof. Alright, so now we got the decking down. We glued it, and we were able to stable it because there's the wood that was inside there, so it came out really well. But we glued her all down. That's what we do. You can see some of it right in there. But probably even a little bit more over there somewhere. But we boogered her up pretty good. So now we got to get our protective strips right here. We'll put them on the joints. Another one like right here on the joint. And then we got some shoulders to make. Once we make the shoulders and everything, then we can get going with the roof. So now we're going to roll the roofing out. There she goes. Look how pretty. That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. We're going to get a big roller. We're going to roll it down tight. That what he's using is just a balance roller. We're going to use this big mammoo right here. That's a 110 pounder. That's going to really sink her down onto the roof. Well, we are done with our little Coleman. We get the scaffold and we got it stretched out because you're doing, we put the new roof on that slide out, but I was going to show you what it looks like. So we'll show you all that, but that's why everything's all stretched apart. We put our little stamp on here. We put that on there so everybody knows when the roof was done. When it comes in for warranty work or anything, we can look at it. And also if the customer goes to sell it, they can say, hey, that roof was just put on September 22. So other than that, we got, you know, everything all heat welded in there. Those are plumbing we've got heat welded in. We've also got the stands. So those stands on the back, all they do is give the air conditioner some balance. So he also wanted us to replace these. He bought these new type of vents that we put in for him. And got the skylight all down. We don't put any screws in the skylights. I mean, we just glue them down. We've had real good success with that. If you start screwing those down, you're going to get fractures in them. They're just not meant to be screwed down. Every one we've seen has always got hair fractures in them, little fractures, and then they start leaking. And then we got obviously the air conditioners here, and then this is a piece of counter flash. What that does, it goes below our counter flash on our curb. So all these things that are sitting here, that's a curb. That's a curb. That's a curb that elevates it. Those little blocks, the stands off, what some people call them. But on all these curves, we've got, this is called counter flash, this piece. So when the water comes rushing across, you know, even in the heavy rain as you're traveling, it'll hit up in here and it'll divert. And what it does really is it kind of prevents the erosion effect that's going to be typical on regular flush mount where you have water just rushing across. So these counter flash pieces are all on every curb that I designed. That goes below that, up inside here, is a foam gasket that we've replaced. You should replace them every couple of years, or replace this one. And when the water comes down, I don't want it to roll back into that foam gasket. So we put this piece on here so it'll go below the counter flash and roll out. That's the whole purpose of that. So you can see we've got the same counter flash type deal, and the other part that's all heat welded in there, that's your flashing detail. All this part right here is all flashing detail. So this is all heat welded. That's not glued, it's all heat welded. So you can see everything is all heat welded together. We went around everything with 2 strikes, a caulking all the way across. We changed all the insert trim. This type of insert trim sits in and over the the gutter. So I'm going to show you that slide out there, and then this is a vent right here, an exhaust fan. What we find is that we get condensation built up, and this is an intake, so it'll pull air from there. There's a trough in there, and it goes over the inner lens. There's another one on the other side. Some of these little ones, they have double lenses, like that one right there. There's the other fan, and they're solar, so you don't have to worry about it. So when the condensation starts building up on there, it's on the outside of it, but it's also on the inside. So when the sun comes up, it'll evaporate what's on top, but what's up underneath, it won't. It'll just morely condense, and when it condenses, it'll start to weep and wick into the wood, and when that happens, then you have, you know, some rot, and basically it'll be chronic. So we designed these. That one there is a plumbing, but now if these pop off, if that pops off, take your plumbing and put it on there, because that will leak into your coach. The same with this other one over here. If that pops off, grab this one, or put some tape on it or something, but you need to get those covers. They have to have covers on them, because like I said, they will leak. So let me show you that slide out here in a minute. These are a metal roof. So that's all. It's actually a piece. That one is a piece of aluminum. Sometimes I can use aluminum, sometimes I can use metal. You can't get aluminum in really long lengths. So if it's about 10 foot, I can. And that one worked out. And what I did is there was a piece on here where the original roofing come around, wrapped down. They put a termination bar there, and I took that off, because what happens is the water, when it comes down, if that box isn't exactly level, it could encourage the water to go back into the coach. So I take them off, and then I just make that drip rail like I did. It's got a little kick to it, so it encourages the water to get away from the coach. And then we also fix these down here. I'll have to go down and show you what we did there, but everything else is all sealed, so that looks good. And then this is, again, this is a skylight. That's your intake. And then there was a ladder on here, which was stupid on Coleman's part. They put this ladder right here where you're going to step when you come on the roof, right there. So we talked to the customer about it. You're going to buy a telescoping ladder, you know, that you can just throw in your cubby, and it'd be a lot easier. But otherwise, she's done. This is a 60 mil commercial grade TPO. It's a structured membrane. It's got a weave in it. It's the same product you're going to find on a hotel, office building, a library. And we custom make all these different components for the roof. Every single one of them we make here. So, and those little fans there, those are solar, like the one that's up there as well. Those are solar. So you don't have to go in and flip a switch. You just want to make sure that they're working. But they're working very effectively. We did one on another coach a while back, and it was a small one like this too, and he had a double skylight. And we were trying to find that leak, and that's where I found it was condensation. So I designed these fans, or this exhaust system, if you will, ventilation system we'll call it. And once I got that going, and he's been in here a few times, and he said that solved his problem. He doesn't have any issues with it now. So, but you know, when you put that on there, where is the moisture going to go? It's got to go somewhere, and it's going to leak down into the coach. So let me go show you the bottom. What we got here, I put it in black because everything was black. But this piece down here is about 1.5 inches, and then it kind of gets wider up here. That's about 3 inches. So it goes from 3 to 1.5. So there's a 1.5 inch drop on this piece. So what that does is when the water comes down, see, we'll back up a little bit here. When the water comes down the coach as it's raining, it's going to hit there, and it's going to roll right down there. And there's a, kind of like a little notch in there, right in here. There's a little notch. It's all sealed, but I want the water to be able to get in, and then it'll roll out. So it kind of makes like a little mini gutter. So if any water gets behind any of this, this piece goes all the way back into the coach. So any water that does get down there, it's going to hit here, and it's just going to travel down. It'll get away from the coach. Water's going to find its own path it searches its own level, if you will. So if it's off just a skosh, just a little bit, and then you have a little bit of wind blowing, you could potentially have the water droplets start working back into the coach. And that's why I made them this way with what I call a rake, and it rakes down. It just kind of goes on an angle. If you don't have it right, like I said, it can leak back in there, and all it takes is for a few water molecules to start going in that direction, and then all the other ones will follow. Kind of like if you were to take a chain and you just set a chain up on this board and you have a few links hanging over, well, eventually all that whole chain's just going to unwhirl and then get land on the ground. It's the same thing with water. You have a few molecules going in a direction, the rest of them are going to follow. So we want to discourage all of that. So, and this piece goes down and then it returns back up underneath there. It's not just terminated right here. I want to make sure all that whole corner is all protected. So, well, that's our little Coleman. We appreciate you watching. Keep in mind, these are not DIY videos. These are videos we try to put together for the customer. We want the customer to see all we can do. If you get some hints and tricks and tips out of it, that's great. Also, we don't quote on social media, we appreciate you watching. Care package. Right. So in our care package, we have caulking, we got primer, we have got 2 patches. Those are heat patches. We got a patch, peel and stick patch. We got a checker tool. We've got a magnet. And the rest of this is just pens, keychains, brush, nozzle. Okay, so if we have a hole in the roof, and we'll simulate a hole. You can do hole simulations. We say we got a hole there. Here's your tree branch come through and you're like, oh man, I got a hole in my roof, it's leaking. So what you want to do, and it's raining out. Right now it's raining, you're like, crap, I gotta stop that leak. You want to get in there, and if you can't get that nozzle in there, don't worry about it. Make it a little bigger. What you're trying to do, you need to get up underneath the roofing. Like this. This is what we need to do. Get up underneath the roofing. Then you're going to take and you're going to put this up inside there, and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hopefully this thing is plugged up. There it goes. Just squeeze, squeeze. You want to try and get up underneath this part too. Squeeze up underneath there. Put some more underneath there. Well, we are getting this thing all boogered up. Then what we're going to do, you're going to push it together. See how it oozes out? That's sealed. You're done. This is a moisture cured product. So what? It's a hot mess. Looks terrible. Who cares? Keep the water out. So now, the next day, we're going to go up there, and that's going to be cured looking like that. So we're going to take a knife, and you just shave it down. Just shave it down with a knife. I'm just going to obviously wipe this off. Now you say, hey, I want something a little better than that. So what we're going to do is get some cleaner. This is a terrible rag. You got another one. You got one on you? Oh, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag. Hey, what are you doing? What are you going to talk about, man? Nope, just leave it alone. Oh, leave it alone right now. We're recording now? Are we on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, so now we cleaned it off with a knife. I just washed that off because it's still wet. Take that off. So now we got a patch. This is a peel and stick patch. We're going to take that, we're going to center it over there. Just take a pen and go around like this. I like to kind of put a dash like that so I know who's where, what, and where, and how. So now there's what I got. So in the package we got primer. We also have a brush. We're going to take that, you're going to go all inside the square. You're also going to go outside this square about 3/8 of an inch. Outside about 3/8 of an inch or so. Once you get that, there's a film on the back. You peel the film, now you know which side you are, see, because there's your marks. And you peel that film back. Get the fat fingers in there to get the film off of this thing. This is just a regular roof tape. That's all it is. We put them in all the care packages. Get that daggone thing off of there. Probably need some fingernails. Probably help. Come on. There it is. Okay. There it is. Now you got the film. We'll take that film. So now we're going to line it back up with this. We already got the primer under there. You just peel the film back, and as you do, you just rub it down like this. Sometimes that film will get a little stuck in there. This is just a butyl. You just kind of try to keep it as even as you can and flat as you can. Boom, you're done. There it is. So now, out here, this is where your primer is. You put the primer on there. You got primer there, and now you're going to put primer here. You want to prime all this area with your brush. Prime all that. Then you're going to come back. Once you get it all primed, then you're going to put a little bit of caulking on it, just like this. That's simple. If it doesn't all sit in there, you can always take your finger and go around it if you want. We're trying to obviously stop a leak and make one of. There's going to be a little more permanent of a patch than just that plug that we did when it was raining. So now that we get that all done, the whole purpose of it is this part here. This part underneath here, that's a butyl. When the sun hits that, if you didn't have the caulking on there, it will cause it to release and curl up just like I'm doing here. And it'll start coming loose. That's why you need the primer. That's why when you prime it, you're going to prime on top of this, because nothing will stick to it. Nothing, the caulking will not stick to this patch, and it won't stick to the roof unless you use the primer. That's how you do a patch. Ta-da! All done.